Hello, this is Tony Hiller from RealClimateScience.com. On June 21st, 2018, United Nations climate spokesperson Greta Thunberg said, "A top climate scientist is warning that climate change will wipe out all of humanity unless we stop using fossil fuels over the next 5 years." So according to this United Nations expert, we only have 19 days left to save the planet. And the following year, she gave an even dire warning. The Prince of Wales has warned global leaders they have 18 critical months to solve climate change. So according to King Charles, we passed the deadline to save the planet more than a year ago. In 2009, the future King Charles said we only had until the year 2017 to save the planet from global warming. In 2005, Charles said, "Climate change is terrifying." In 2007, Charles compared the fight against global warming to war. And 30 years ago, Charles said we had less than 10 years left to save the planet from global warming. But the UK government's chief scientist, Professor David King, was more optimistic. He said we could save ourselves by moving to Antarctica. May 2nd, 2004. Antarctica is likely to be the world's only habitable continent by the end of the century if global warming remains unchecked. Antarctica is a pretty cold place, and they recently had their coldest 6 months on record. But Sir David King said we're all going to have to move there to escape global warming. This week he expressed some more deep thoughts about the climate crisis.
So we are in this peculiar situation where the world has never been faced with such a big crisis, and yet we don't find leadership from amongst the heads of governments for a crisis that will affect all of them. There's not one country that isn't impacted by this crisis.
Sir David wants us to move to Antarctica, and these maps show exactly what the problem is. In 2017, 26 degrees in northern Germany was green, but now 20 degrees is red hot. If television stations keep coloring their maps redder and redder, we're all going to burn up. There's not a lot of people moving to Antarctica, but there are a lot of people moving to America's hottest city, Phoenix, Arizona. In fact, Maricopa County, where Phoenix is located, is the fastest growing county in the country. Apparently, the millions of people moving to Arizona didn't read this article in The Guardian telling them that Arizona has become unlivable. Had they read this article, they probably would have moved to Antarctica instead. I moved to Arizona almost 50 years ago to attend Arizona State University. My freshman year in college, Phoenix set their all-time record of 18 consecutive days over 110 degrees. Also in 1974, Buckeye, Arizona set the state's record of 21 consecutive days over 110 degrees. The hottest day of that heat wave was June 23, 1974, when Buckeye reached 119 degrees Fahrenheit. The following day, Time magazine predicted another ice age. They said, "Telltale signs are everywhere, from the unexpected persistence and thickness of pack ice in the waters around Iceland to the southward migration of a warmth-loving creature like the armadillo from the Midwest." And they blamed drought, famine, flooding, and tornadoes on global cooling, all the same things which they now blame on global warming. The symptoms of global cooling were pretty brutal in 1974, including America's largest tornado outbreak. Australia had their largest bushfires in 1974, with about 15% of the country burning. And on Christmas Day 1974, Darwin, Australia was destroyed by Cyclone Tracy. If those events happened now, they would be blamed on shrinking Arctic ice, but in 1974 they were blamed on expanding Arctic ice. The Guardian says Phoenix is becoming too hot to live, but they set their all-time temperature record in 1990, more than 30 years ago. And the state of Arizona had their worst heat waves over 120 degrees in 1896 and 1905, when they had 7 consecutive days over 120 degrees at Parker. This record has never been matched again since 1905. But the Guardian says Phoenix is getting too hot to live. The truth is that Phoenix has always been too hot to live for most people. It was the advent of widespread air conditioning which made it possible for millions of people to move there. The goal of climate alarmists is to shut down all of our reliable sources of energy, which would indeed make it impossible for most people to live in Phoenix. Without the constant availability of air conditioning, very few people would be moving to Phoenix, and the same thing was true 50 years ago when I moved there. Climate alarmists seem to be trying to create the disaster which they're predicting. But it has nothing to do with climate, it will be caused by them shutting down the energy supply. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on this massive climate energy scam for the past 15 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki Upala, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com. And you can also visit our newest climate warrior, Thor, who was just born last night.